pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Introductions. Rick Kipler from the Select Board is going to introduce the Board of Selectmen.
All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming out in these fine summer days we're having today. To my right is Selectman Kevin Cahill. To his right is Town Administrator Naomi Bolton. To my left is Selectman John Osborne, and to his left is Selectman John Van Londersloop. Good morning.
Good morning. As is tradition, a reading of the list of residents who passed away during the year. Joseph A. Grimard, Jr., Inge Marie Ducharme, Murray Richard Wigston, Constance Doyle, Sharon D. Dunn, Ronald A. Philibot, Robert Henry Dubril, Edward Anderson, Jane Bailey, Glenn F. Bilodeau, Jean A. Farrell, Mary Lou McInich, Leroy Eldon Marcroft, Deborah Ann Valcourt, Roland Eli Doobie, Richard Allen Hamlet, Lorraine Helena Dugay, Evelyn Jean Yearley, Melanie Lynn Kaler, Warren Parker Stiles, Winston Kittredge III, Leonard Robert Mudge, Michael A. Janis, Dennis Boyer, Timothy John Curtis, Rhodalyn Knox, Kenneth Edward Grandmason, George Moore Sawyer, Kevin Scott Yutner, Alan Lars Johnson, Dominic Rudolph DeLuca, Michael Carr Lascrina, Matthew Furlong, Susan Christine Recupero, David F. Hibbard, Roy Blanchett, Winifred Ilsley, Judith G. Gilmet, Patricia Hebert, June Antony, Walter R. Johnson, Bruce A. Taylor, David Currier, Keith Dion, Albert J. Blackburn III, Arnold Irwin Seekis Rockland Ware, Felicia A. Sullivan, Raymond Eaton, and Arnold Mars Shatney, Jr. The rules of order for deliberative session. Today's votes will be cast using the red-green colored voting card. If you are a registered voter and do not have a card, you must sign in with the supervisors of the checklist in order to get one. Please sign your card and either take it with you or turn it into the supervisors when you leave. If you are not a registered voter, you cannot participate in voting and must be sitting in the designated area for non-voters. I will read the warrant article as it appears in the warrant. I will place the article on the floor for discussion, debate, and/or amendment, so we have a final version that will appear on the ballot for the March 17th voting. If you would like to restrict reconsideration once an article has had a final vote, a motion must be made to do so. Any voter may question a ruling by the moderator by asking to appeal the ruling to the body as a whole. A majority vote is required to overrule the moderator. I will call on the Selectmen, Finance Committee, and/or a petitioner, as is appropriate, to speak first to an article. I will then open the floor to questions, comments, and/or amendments by the voters. If you would like to speak on an article, please stand in line at the microphone, and when you are recognized to speak, please state your name clearly prior to beginning. All speakers will be required to show their voter ID, sticker, or card. Only registered voters will be allowed to speak unless a majority of the voters present decide otherwise. Ask permission here to allow, this is my first time if you didn't guess that. So to allow the town council to speak?
And police chief
And the police chief.
and the interim public works.
Yes. So the police chief, interim Department of Works director, and the town council, I'm asking for the town to give them permission to speak. Without objection. Thank you. Questions and/or comments will be directed to the moderator, and no conversations directed to others on the floor will be allowed. A motion to call the question will not be accepted until all have had a fair opportunity to express their views. In order to make this meeting run smoothly and efficiently, please be brief and non-repetitive with your comments and stick to the subject matter within the article. We will discuss only what is germane to the written article. If a speaker is repeating what has already been discussed, I will ask them to move on to any other question or comment they may have. Amendments will be accepted, however, they must be in writing in order to eliminate any confusion, and will be only accepted once the Selectmen, Finance Committee, and/or petitioner have an opportunity to speak. Only one amendment will be allowed on the floor at a time. Once the amendment is voted on, I will ask for any other amendments. An amendment cannot change the subject matter, purpose, or intent of the article as posted. A request to have a paper ballot must be in writing and signed by 5 registered voters. And there was a request to move Article 21 to the front of the docket this morning. And so I'm going to put out a vote to the town whether it's okay to move 21 to the front, and then we will go starting with Article 5 through the remaining articles. Yeah, all in favor of moving to 21? Any opposed?
Make sure everyone gets an All right, and now anyone opposed?
Anyone opposed? So the one's still holding up, they're voting for it.
They're voting no.
The one's still holding up or voting no?
Yep, so.
Okay.
All in favor, please raise your cards really high. 1, 2, 3, 4.
10, 11.
Okay. All opposed?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's like 18
Opposed.
opposed.
Okay, then no.
Yep. Okay. So the no.
Question, Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
Does this take a 2/3 vote to change the order of the agenda? Thank you.
No. So in this case, the request was acknowledged and voted on, and we are going to start with Article 5. Shall the town raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles or other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with a warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $7,977,540. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $7,419,348, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13 10 and 16 to make up the issue of revised operating budget only. And Article 5, Ricky Hippler.
I'll move the article as read. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. This year's budget represents adjustments made to encompass the cost of operating the town for 2023. The last budget that we were operating on passed in 2019, and even with current inflation being at record highs for the last few years, the town has managed to operate without any cuts in service by combining positions and using unfilled payroll funds to make up the cost increases. There's a couple of examples. One example is road salt. That went from $53.33 a ton in 2019 to $79.22 this last purchase. So it's items like that that are driving this budget a little higher, but it's still only 7.52% increase.
Does anyone have any questions or comments on this article?
Finance Committee?
Finance Committee, have a representative, Tom?
Tom Clough. I'm the chair.
Tom, you get it.
You hear me now?
Yes.
Problem is I'm too short. Fall out. Thank you, Tom. Height impaired. With the moderator's permission, I would like to just acknowledge the other members of the Finance Committee.
Yes.
Okay, I think we started meeting in October, put in a lot of time, and I think that we had a group that represented a diverse cross-section of the community, but we worked well together, and I really appreciated that, and I think they should be acknowledged. Members of the committee, Vice Chair was Janice Matthew. Others are Tom Flaherty, Elizabeth Evans, Gary Evans, John Merva, Maria Forciano, Bill Anderson, and James Drury. A couple of people that I would like to especially thank. Our elected secretary had to drop off the committee, Leah Bola, because it interfered too much with her work schedule. And Tom Flaherty stepped up and came through with the minutes. Excellent job, and he really deserves the thanks from the committee. The other one that I'd like to single out is Bill Anderson, who couldn't be here today. But Bill, over the years, has really wrote the first draft of our blurbs, we call them, for the mailer. And so it made it easier on the committee to work from a draft rather than trying to invent the whole thing as we went along. And Bill is in Maine working on some weather-related issues up there. So thank you to the committee, and thank you to the people that I mentioned. The committee unanimously supports this article. Views it as the most important town article for passage by voters. The town has been operating on default budgets for 3 straight years. The default budgets have resulted in ever-increasing critical funding shortfalls in fuel, salt, parts, trash hauling, and IT needs. The most obvious example is if you look at the budget and compare the over $300,000 difference between the proposed and the default budget in the highway transfer lines. Each additional year with a default budget expands the gap between the proposed and the default budgets. The tax rate for the proposed budget is $3.29, for the default, $2.86. 43-cent difference represents a $150 difference in property taxes on a $350,000 home. The town has also made a conscientious effort to minimize the tax impact of other articles by using other funding sources in an effort to get the operating budget approved. The committee applauds and supports these efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Now, does he have to show? Oh, okay.
Good morning. My name is Richard Bott, Old Town Road, and I have an amendment.
Okay. No, you can go. You can go ahead and read the amendment.
You're going to read it?
No, you can go ahead and read the amendment. This is your amendment, right?
Okay. First of all, the reason for the amendment is to provide funding for the town of Weare to purchase tools necessary for the highway department to service town vehicles. Currently, the town of Weare is borrowing those tools from an employee. So the tools that are being used at the highway department to service highway department vehicles as well as other town vehicles are borrowed. And this came known to the Board of Selectmen early in the budget process. They set aside $75,000 to purchase tools. It was later reduced down to $58,000 as a result of having some funds available in year-end surplus. And it was $58,000 up until last Monday night when the selectmen cut that to $15,000. And I believe the reason they did that was to bring the budget bottom line number down. Somebody from the marketing department probably came down and said, you can sell that operating budget for $7.99. Don't make it $8.99. So I think there was an attempt to bring that number down, the $8 million total budget for operating expenses, below $8 million. And this is one of the lines that was cut. So my proposal is to add $43,000 back into the budget. And do you want me to read the article?
Well, no, I already read the article, so the point would be that you're looking to change the $7,977,540 to $8,020,540. Is that correct?
Yes, that represents the $43,000.
And the difference in the tax impact would go from $3.29 to $3.33.
That's correct.
Difference of 4 cents per thousand. Okay.
So I'm finished with my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other?
Well, that's a proposed amendment. Okay, further discussion on the amendment.
Okay. Do we have any further discussion on this amendment?
Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand.
Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment? Oh, you have further discussion?
Jerry Little, Woodbury Road.
Yes.
I didn't hear whether or not Dick said that the increase in the budget is specifically limited to use on one particular line item, or are we just increasing the bottom line of the budget? I thought he said that he wanted to
Yes, please.
provide for tools. So is that increase in the budget going specifically for those tools, or is it just increasing the budget?
It just increases the bottom line, and then the selectmen have the discretion to move money around in the budget however they like.
Good clarification. Thank you.
Neil Kirk, Mount Dearborn Road, with a question. In the current operating budget, in the 2002 budget, what was the total amount of surplus at the end of calendar 2022?
We're getting that information for you, Neil.
An approximate number is fine.
185,000 approximately after the select board made the end of year expenditures.
which was 133,000.
Correct.
So 133 plus 185?
185.
So a little bit better than, about $318,000 was surplus,
Roughly.
roughly. As I understand it, there are currently a number of vacant positions.
That is correct.
Full-time policeman, 2.5 in the town office.
Neil?
Sorry, one full-time person in the town
Excuse me,
office.
Neil?
Yes.
Could I ask that you speak to the amendment?
The purpose of my speaking is to suggest that there's more than enough money in the budget to cover this 43,000. Let me make it clear. We have a number of vacancies, and I'll address the issue later, but there are a number of vacancies. They cannot be filled this year for a whole variety of reasons of which we're all aware, and therefore there's going to be a substantial surplus in this year's budget, whether it's the default budget or the proposed budget, for maybe much as 10 times the amount of $43,000. So I don't believe it's necessary to raise the bottom line in order to have enough money for the selectmen to pay the full amount of these tools.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Any further comment?
Tom Clow, 125 Concord Stage Road. I just would like to give a member of the board the opportunity to explain why the change was made. I know it came up after the public hearing, but I think it would be better for the group to know why the cuts were made in that tool line. Thank you.
Yep. And Dick wasn't exactly wrong with his statement. We did want to get that number under the $8 million. That is a correct statement. At the end of the year, with that surplus that Mr. Kirk talks about, end of year, again, because of unfilled positions, we spent, as a town, $17,000 to purchase and make a good start into that tools that we need for the town. Again, the interim DPW director is the town mechanic, so it's his tools that we're using. And you know, he sat down, made a very comprehensive list of what we need for the town, and that's what he came up with for a number, was that final number. So this is, you know, I think it was roughly, what, 85,000. We're at 32 if we spend the 17 from last year and this 15 in the one-time purchase line moving forward.
The only other clarification is it was stated that we're borrowing the tools, and that is not absolutely correct. What we have done is entered into a lease agreement with the current mechanic on a monthly basis for the use of some of his specialty tools, which will be replaced and become over time. So we've decided to attack this in a periodic purchase over a course of a number of years. Again, equipment changes quickly, tools are changing quickly, but the fundamental tools are accounted for with the $30,000 plus or minus dollars. Thank you.
Go ahead, Frank.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Frank Campana, Quaker Street. The issue was raised a short bit ago about the fact is that the selectmen have control of the bottom line of the budget. So could there be if this amendment passes, can there be a commitment by the Board of Selectmen that that line will be funded to satisfy the amendment?
It's up to the selectmen whether or not they want to commit to that.
Right, because the wording here doesn't make that commitment, so yes.
No,
great
I'm
question.
asking
Yeah,
today.
great question.
I mean, it's probably not a hard decision for them to make today.
Right.
They make many decisions on the spot. So,
I mean,
So-
to answer your question, Frank, we haven't had that discussion, obviously. So I would personally, as one member, be in favor of it, but I'm not going to say absolutely yes.
Okay. And the scenario that I think of is if the amendment passes, I'm not necessarily certainly not against the town buying tools. I've been here for over 50 years, and it was never a thought in my mind as the town owned their own tools. Apparently, they never have, except for a few. But my concern is that if this amendment passes and some other catastrophic, I guess I better look at you, some other catastrophic event occurs that, I say, well, it's a choice of spending money on tools or to satisfy a catastrophic event. They'll probably satisfy the catastrophic event. And that's what I would not like to see if I support the amendment. So I've only had one member. I know there are others there. So it raises a question in my mind that I do support the amendment, but with the caveat that I'm not convinced that the selectmen won't take the money for something else. And that's it. Thank you.
Can they vote on this?
As one selectman, current selectman, I'm not running again this year, so I obviously cannot make that kind of a commitment.
Understood.
Go ahead.
Helene Kirk, Mount Dearborn Road. I didn't get the figures. How much are we paying to borrow, rent the tools right now?
$250 a month.
You have to step down and have
And you, at the present time, you have nothing in the budget for the tools as you planned your future budget.
We have a one-time purchase line in there currently at the moment for the tool purchase of $15,000. But there's not a line item for highway department tooling in the default budget.
Okay. I have some concern, having once sat at that table, that even if this board says, yeah, we'll do it, a future board may change their mind, may find something that they think is more important. I wonder if, to make sure it actually goes to what it was meant to go for, if it couldn't be added to the very last article, which is anything else that comes before the board, if I recall correctly.
No, it has to be added to this.
It cannot do that?
No, it has to be added to this article.
So, in fact, we can't bind the board to it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Just need for clarification. I understand we're paying the person, an employee, to borrow his tools. And you mentioned a lease agreement. Is that lease agreement binding for a year, 2 years? Does it, if the employee decides to leave, do we keep his tools? What are the conditions of the lease? And is it a written lease? And when was it discussed? I'm sorry, I'm addressing it to the moderator to ask maybe the board that question.
Thank you. They're discussing that.
Excuse me. So as we appointed the interim DPW director, at that same time, we found out that he was using his own tools with an agreement with the previous DPW director. That agreement was not in writing and was not approved by the board. He then stated that as part of assuming that responsibility, he wanted some form of compensation for the use of his tools. That was discussed and agreed along with his monetary compensation for his hourly time. Does that answer your question, Dick?
No.
Okay.
Do we have a lease agreement with that person for a year, 6 months, 2 years? What happens if he leaves? Where do the tools go?
The answer is no, we do not have an agreement with him, and if he leaves, the tools go with him.
Thank you. In crafting the proposed budget, I believe the selectmen should be putting money in the lines that reflect what their needs are.
All right, so I misspoke. I thought it was under a one-time purchase line. It is not.
It's a line item in the budget.
It's a line item in the budget.
Changed it from a one-time expenditure for $58,000.
Correct.
You changed it then to a line item in the budget for tools, which is now $15,000.
That's correct.
So I don't think a budget should be put together in regarding some of the previous comments, that you're going to have money, plenty of money available in the budget to move around. Specifically, maybe you're going to be short 2 or 3 offices during the course of the year. That roughly is going to be about $200,000. But a budget shouldn't be crafted to reflect those situations that may or may not happen. So I know it's a novel approach, but I think the town should own its tools that's being used to service vehicles. I mean, imagine if you borrowed pots and pans from your neighbors to cook, and the neighbor said, hey, I'm leaving, I want my pots and pans back, and your family's going to starve to death because you don't have the money to buy pots and pans. Really, I mean, it's embarrassing that an $8 million corporation doesn't have a line in the budget for tools and for replacement of those tools over time. The first time I've heard this discussed was today. We've gone through the budget process. You had public hearings. I had never heard anyone say that we're going to buy them over time. We're going to buy them over a 4 or 5 year period to replenish the tools. The first time I heard it was now. I mean, these are the types of things that should have been discussed in part of the public hearing. They're not. So again, I think it's important that we have the money available. I think your intent was to get that number under 8, and the tools was an easy pick. Buy, we can make it 15,000, regardless of the need. And I think we need those tools, and I think it would be a benefit to the employees down there to know that we're owning our own tools, and that the agreement with an employee, I think, is way out of line with how we should be running the town. Thanks.
Any further comments on the amendment? Seeing that there are none, we need to have a vote at this point. All in favor of adding this amendment to the article?
Okay.
14.
All opposed?
All opposed? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 15, 16, 17. You got like 8.
Yeah.
So the opposed, the proposed amendment fails.
And now we're back to discussing the original one.
So now we are back to discussing the original Article 5 as originally read. Any further discussion on this article?
Neil Kirk, Mount Dearborn Road. I've been looking at 2 different figures for the effect of this article on the tax rate. One is in the booklet that's a selectman prepared, and that suggests the rate is $3 and something. And then the Finance Committee says it's lower at $3.29. Can someone tell us the anticipated impact, tax impact, if the budget passes, the proposed budget?
I can actually answer that. It is 329 is the impact.
329.
Correct.
And the current, the default tax rate budget would be, the tax rate for the default budget is 286, is that correct?
That's correct.
And that represents a 15% increase in taxes, is that correct? 329 divided by 286 is 1.150, 15% increase.
Yep.
So the budget is up 8.8%, but the tax rate would go up 15%. Is that not correct?
So I think when you referred to the booklet that we have.
Yes.
That was for the public hearing. And what Dick was alluding to is after the public hearing, we regrouped and we made a reduction of $97,000, which is what you're seeing when you came through if you grabbed one of these. So this is correct. The $3.29 is correct, and so is the $2.86, and that represents 7.52, not 8.8 like the booklet had at the public hearing. There's two different things. We had the public hearing on the 16th of January, at which time we listened to everybody, we regrouped, we went down on fuel, we cut some of the salt, it was a recommendation because we had purchased some, and we reduced the tools. So that's why you're looking at a new number, which is the final number that was posted.
I understand that, but am I not correct that even that final number, the $3.29, represents a 15% increase in the tax rate that would be in effect if we rejected the proposed budget and the default budget became effective?
Mr. Moderator, we're having the finance administrator look at it, just to confirm.
Okay.
What's that? Oh. That's what I do for a living.
I always tell people I went to law school instead of medical school.
Oh, right. Went to the Air Force Center.
Did you?
Yeah, I didn't really go to school.
Where were you stationed?
Bitburg, Germany.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
So now I'm studying for the American College of Financial Services towards like a CHFC, which is like a CFP, CHFC.
That's neat.
Yeah. So it's funny, at 50 years old, I'm like, I'm going to start a new career and go to college again. Why not?
I always tell my wife, I'm like, that's it. I'm done. I'm going to start a cupcake business.
Oh, there you go. Definitely a popular thing. You're doing right. Well, have you ever read the book called
Do you purchase one first?
Yeah, that's what I think we're doing, yeah. There's a lot of this that has zero impact. Can we do that?
Yeah, we can do that.
While they are working on this number, we can go ahead and take a 5-minute recess. Anybody needs to use facilities or anything? Neil? Neil? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I think we have clarity on this now, or at least agreement. I think I'm correct in stating that the budget in total dollars went up by approximately 8%. But the tax rate, because there's a lot of revenue in the total dollars, if we appropriate $8 million, we get, say, $4 million in revenue, so we're only really raising $4 million by taxes. So the tax rate went up from $2.86 in the default budget to $3.29 in the proposed budget. And that is a 15% difference. So from a taxpayer's point of view, if you're only worried about taxes, if you vote for the default budget, if you vote for the proposed budget, you're raising your taxes on the town portion, budget only, by 15%. That's the point that I wanted to make. And that 15% is approximately $178 on a $350,000 house. Just for this item, has nothing to do with the schools or the rest of the warrant article today. So the point of this question was to give voters some important information. An 8% increase in the total budget in dollars still represents a 15% increase in our tax bills if we vote in favor of the proposed budget. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Neil. Any further discussion on this article?
Frank Campan again. Just a couple of things that concern me. I understand the need of the town, needs money to run, but I need money in my house to run also, okay? So I have to weigh, as selfish as it sounds, I have to take care of myself first before I can take care of anybody else. So Social Security, I'm getting a whopping 8.7% increase. The average Social Security increase for this year is $20,000, a little over $20,000 for the average recipient. At the 8%, that's an increase of about $1,600, a little over $1,600. Now, on top of that, I get my deductions for health insurance has gone up. I didn't look to see what it was, but it's gone up. And for anybody here that has some type of investment, okay, I have to go back, and I do have some investments, very, very modest. I was self-employed, so, it's all proportionate to what my investments might be. But I have to go back probably 5 years, all right, to look at my gross investment return to what it is today. So I'm at the level of 5 years ago today. So I've lost. I can't imagine anybody in this room or this town that, is doing great in investments. So, we're on a losing end. I guess it boils down to is that I am also running on a default budget. How I have to make ends meet, I don't know. So again, I appreciate, the selectmen's situation and their need for tax dollars. Thank you.
Thank you.
David Erickson, Poor Farm Road. So even though I live on the poor farm, almost. I got to say, this budget is taking care of me, so I kind of disagree, Frank, that it's... I want to get up in the morning and be able to drive to work. I want the road plowed. I don't want it full of potholes. You know, I want my town services. I want a good transfer station and so forth and so forth and so forth. So just a simple point. I think paying taxes for the things we've agreed to pay them for, as determined by the select board that we voted for, is taking care of me.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
I'd like to move the question. Close debate.
I'm sorry.
So there's a vote on whether or not to stop debate.
Oh, yes, yes. So we can stop debate at this point. We can vote on that.
All in favor?
All in favor? Okay, that passes.
So now the article will appear on the ballot as read.
The article will appear on the ballot as read.
I'd like to restrict reconsideration, please.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay, we will move on to Article 6,